In the annals of American history, few political rivalries have left an indelible mark as enduring as that between Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams. Their contentious battle for the presidency in the early 19th century not only shaped the destiny of the young nation, but also set a precedent for the often tumultuous nature of American politics.
The origins of their rivalry can be traced back to the aftermath of the War of 1812. Andrew Jackson, the fiery and charismatic military hero, had achieved fame and glory in the Battle of New Orleans. His leadership during this pivotal conflict earned him the nickname Old Hickory and elevated him to the status of a national hero.
On the other side of the political spectrum stood John Quincy Adams, the son of former President John Adams, possessing a keen intellect and diplomatic experience. Adams had served his country in various capacities, including as a diplomat, senator, and Secretary of State. Yet, despite his considerable achievements, Adams lacked the populist appeal that Jackson effortlessly commanded. The stage was set for a clash of titans in the 1824 presidential election. This election, however, would be unlike any other in American history, marked by intrigue, backroom dealings, and a controversial outcome that would sow the seeds of animosity between Jackson and Adams. The 1824 presidential election was a hotly contested affair featuring four prominent candidates: Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams, William Crawford, and Henry Clay. As the popular vote failed to produce a clear winner, the decision fell to the House of Representatives due to a constitutional provision. Behind closed doors, political machinations unfolded, revealing a complex web of alliances and rivalries. Henry Clay, who had finished fourth in the Electoral College, threw his support behind Adams. This support proved decisive, as Adams secured the presidency, leaving Jackson and his supporters crying fool.
The Jacksonian camp decried what they saw as a corrupt bargain between Adams and Clay. Allegations of backroom deals and promises of political appointments tarnished the legitimacy of Adams's presidency from the outset. The wounds inflicted during the 1824 election would fester and define the bitter rivalry that unfolded in the years to come.
Adams, faced with a divided and polarized nation, assumed the presidency with an ambitious agenda. A proponent of a strong federal government and internal improvements, Adams aimed to modernize the United States. However, his proposals faced fierce opposition, particularly from the followers of Andrew Jackson, who viewed his presidency as an affront to the democratic principles they held dear. Jackson, undeterred by his defeat, emerged as the standard-bearer of the opposition. His appeal to the common man struck a chord in an era marked by westward expansion and the rise of a more egalitarian ethos. Jackson's base grew, coalescing around the idea that the 1824 election had been stolen from the rightful voice of the people. The 1828 presidential election loomed large on the horizon, and the rematch between Jackson and Adams promised to be a battle for the ages. The campaign was characterized by intense mudslinging and personal attacks. Adams's supporters portrayed Jackson as a reckless and bloodthirsty military man, referencing his role in duels and military executions.
In turn, Jackson's camp lambasted Adams as an elitist, out of touch with the needs and desires of the common citizen.
The election of 1828 unfolded against a backdrop of increased political participation. A surge in voter turnout, fueled by a growing sense of political empowerment among the common folk, played to Jackson's advantage. The election results reflected this shift, as Jackson won a resounding victory and ascended to the presidency with a mandate from the people. The Jacksonian era, often referred to as the Age of Jackson or the Jacksonian democracy, marked a significant departure from the political landscape of the preceding years. Jackson, with his populist rhetoric and emphasis on the rights of the common man, sought to dismantle the entrenched power structures that he believed favored the elite. As president, Jackson implemented policies that aligned with his vision of a more democratic America. His dismantling of the Second Bank of the United States, a move that earned him both praise and condemnation, epitomized his commitment to challenging what he perceived as institutions that wielded undue influence. Adams, in the aftermath of his presidency, returned to public life as a congressman. Despite his notable contributions in this role, particularly as an advocate for the abolition of slavery, Adams found himself constantly at odds with the Jacksonian majority. The House of Representatives, where he served, became an arena for the clash of ideas and ideologies. One of the defining moments of their ongoing rivalry occurred during the debate over the Tariff of Abominations in 1828. The tariff, aimed at protecting northern industries, was vehemently opposed by southern states, which relied heavily on agriculture. Jackson's administration supported the tariff, further deepening the regional divide.
In response, Vice President John C. Calhoun, a staunch supporter of states' rights, anonymously penned the South Carolina Exposition and Protest, a document that argued for nullification, the idea that states could reject federal laws they deemed unconstitutional.
The ensuing nullification crisis brought the nation to the brink of disunion and highlighted the deep-seated tensions between Jackson and his opponents. As the 1832 presidential election approached, Jackson and Adams once again found themselves in opposing corners. The National Republican Party, formed in opposition to Jackson's policies, nominated Henry Clay as their candidate. The campaign mirrored the vitriol of the 1828 contest, with personal attacks and character assassination reaching new heights. Jackson's resounding victory in the 1832 election solidified his political dominance.
However, the presidency was not without its challenges.
The issue of nullification continued to simmer, with South Carolina posing a direct challenge to federal authority. Jackson's unwavering stance against nullification, coupled with a show of military force, averted a full-blown crisis, but left scars on the fabric of the Union. Despite their deep-seated animosity, Jackson and Adams did share some common ground on certain issues. Both men, for example, were advocates for the removal of Native American tribes from their ancestral lands, a policy that culminated in the infamous Trail of Tears. The final chapter in the Jackson-Adams rivalry unfolded during the 1836 presidential election. Jackson, having served 2 terms, decided not to seek re-election. The National Republicans once again fielded multiple candidates, reflecting the fractured nature of the opposition. In the aftermath of the 1836 election, Martin Van Buren assumed the presidency, inheriting the challenges and controversies of the Jacksonian era. Adams, for his part, continued his service in the House of Representatives, becoming an increasingly vocal opponent of slavery. As the years passed, the intensity of the Jackson-Adams rivalry waned. Both men, veterans of a bygone era, saw their political influence diminish. Adams, however, found a new and unexpected role in the fight against slavery. In 1841, as a member of the House of Representatives, he successfully argued on behalf of the captives in the Amistad case, a landmark legal battle that highlighted the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. Andrew Jackson, in contrast, spent his post-presidential years at his plantation, the Hermitage, where he passed away in 1845. His legacy, complex and controversial, continues to be a subject of historical debate. In reflecting on the rivalry between